This is Patty Younger with My Younger Life. Today I want to talk to you about something that's really special to me. That word is home. What does home mean? I'm going to explore that today and try to relate it from what I've learned, from what I have experienced. So we're going to go back to my beginning, way back to high school and college, and move on through my life. It's been an amazing life, but it's not been without wrong turns. It's not been without mistakes. It's certainly not been without heartbreak. But I have found my home. If you're following me at all, or if you're reading at in my website, you'll notice that I am from a rural area, from the mountains of Appalachia. My education took me further into college, where I majored in commercial art. It was really called communications art where I was at. I went there and I got my degree, my bachelor's of arts in that field, in communications arts. Probably was not what I was created to do. I was just going there because I was headstrong and stubborn, and I wanted to complete what I started, to prove everyone wrong, because no one really saw me as college bound. They saw me as this fly by the seat of your pants, carefree girl, and for the most part that was true. I did not earn stellar grades. I did not exceed as far as those standards go, because I just did what I needed to do to get what I needed to get. And that was the degree. I went there and I finished up. Nothing opened up for me. By the way, guys, that's a good sign you're not where you're supposed to be. Couldn't find work in the area. I didn't want to move too far away. I didn't know anyone. After college, most of my friends, they all moved back home, and I was left there kind of alone. Did a few job interviews, nothing turned up, nothing materialized. I ended up working as a waitress at a Pizza Hut. And that was after I worked midnight shifts at a Hop In Stop store. So there I was, broke. I lived at first in an apartment. My furniture included a cardboard nightstand, a floor lamp, and a 6-inch foam mattress on the floor. And I was trying to make that my home. My clothes were folded in the corner. I don't even think I had maybe more than 10 coat hangers. And it wasn't home. I was subletting. That time ran out, and then I had even less. I had my stuff packed in my car. And I had to make a decision, so I moved in with my aunt and uncle, who lived nearby. Mostly kept my things in my car and slept at their house, and it was a miserable time. I eventually had to give up. When I made that phone call, when I was living on my own, before I ever went back to school to get my license, I remember that phone call so well. I called home and talked to my dad. Now, my dad and I had a on and off relationship. We were never like on the complete outs. Dad was a hardworking, hard-nosed, grizzled man. So I made that phone call. I said, I can remember it so well. I was so upset. And I don't know why I asked to speak to my dad, because I always went through my mom with everything. But I asked to talk to my dad. I said, Dad, I'm not doing very well. I said, Dad, can I come home? I want to come home. And I could tell it took him by surprise. It was just kind of like, well, boy, yeah. Yeah, you can come home. You're always welcome to come home. You don't have to ask. It's almost like he thought I was being silly. But I can remember it so well. He didn't show love in conventional ways. You know, he wasn't a toucher. He wasn't an I love you kind of guy. And he wasn't all nurturing or anything like that. But he didn't need to be. he needed to be the dad that I had. And that dad was, you can always come home. Don't even ask. That's silly. I went back to school and got my teaching license because I really needed to make a living. And I did enjoy the field. I was substitute teaching to subsidize my income, and I was helping volunteer coaching with indoor track and volleyball. And I loved it. It became more what I really felt a purpose in what I needed to do. I went into that field to make a difference. At first I did. I felt so alive. I was working with these students. First year I was elementary, and then I was in high school from there on out. And I enjoyed it so much. Art was so fulfilling, seeing it click with these kids, bringing to them what I struggled to get at that age. And by the way, I'm teaching in the same high school I graduated. It was a pleasure to go back, to go home. So started teaching in the school. And my job in my mind wasn't just to teach art. It wasn't just to be artistic. My job in my mind was to create the environment for my kids, my students, to create, to be themselves and to be comfortable, to have their own home. A lot of these kids struggled with that concept. Most of them were absent one parent or two, or lived with grandparents, and they needed a home away from home. Felt like that was my main focus when I was there, more so than creating artwork. Let's face it, it's hard to create artwork when you feel like you don't have a home or a place or a space to be yourself. A comfortable place. Home is a place that accepts you. And I felt like that was my main purpose. But there were other things I had to do. I had to fight for my time with them. I had to fight to be taken seriously. I had to fight for my curriculum, for my time, for my environment, and every second of it was worth it. I was home. It was home. And those were my family, my kids, in that setting. And I love them. I still do. I still follow a lot of them. So after 30 years of teaching, I hung it up last year and retired. My home away from home ended. I don't have a home away from home now. It's been a hard year. We've had quarantine. I've had COVID. My family's had COVID. I thought I was really kind of enjoying the quarantine, and I hate to say that, and I've felt so much guilt over it since I contracted it myself Thanksgiving, because so many people have suffered so incredibly much in so many ways. But I was in my physical, my home, my real home, my house, the house that my husband and I built. I enjoyed every minute of that time in my physical home, because my home away from home had ended. And it's hard to think I don't have a classroom or the things there aren't partially mine, because I spent 29 years there. I taught 1 year somewhere else. But we don't need two homes. Home is, you know the saying, the little placard that says home is where the heart is? Well, home is where you put your faith, where your spirit, where your desires lay, where your passions are. Because you can make a physical home, but without those other things, you do not feel like you are home. When I was living at college and when I was living after college, I think the worst part about that was I just felt like I was just existing, and it was an ebb and flow thing, and I wasn't foundationed. It's almost like a boat that's come untethered, and I was just kind of going with the flow, going with the waves, and I didn't like it. As free-spirited as I am, I didn't like it. And in all this time, especially those years right after college, I created nothing. There were no artworks birthed out of that. And that's the time when I had time. Time was something that I had a lot of. But I just couldn't create. Just couldn't do it. Except for a big mess. I'd created that. In my mind, anyway. What is your home? And I'm not talking physical. I'm talking, what is your spiritual home? What are your passions? What is it that brings you comfort and peace? And that is where your home is. Again, not your physical home. I am at such peace when I'm creating too. I told someone the other day, one of the things that helped me through quarantines and all this stuff has been my art. It's been creating. It's been putting things together. I have been deconstructing and reconstructing a vehicle. I'm not a mechanic, but I have so enjoyed this process. I've been building a website, which should be done in the next couple of weeks. And I've started this podcasting forum. And all of it I have enjoyed immensely. Because in my heart, I'm home. I'm at peace because I don't need to excel. Because I already excel in that home. Does that make sense? I know that was a big circle. But what I'm trying to say is that when your heart is home, when your heart is home, whenever you're there are no expectations. You can't be loved any more than you are. When your heart is home, the peacefulness rests in knowing that you're loved, that you're welcomed, that you're accepted. And that takes me back to that phone call with my dad. My dad loved me. He accepted me, even though in my heart, I felt like a failure. I was going home after college with no job. None. Cardboard boxes with my stuff in it in the back of my car, going home. And I felt like a failure. But in my dad's eyes, I never failed. And I know that I have went a lot of different directions in this podcast today. But I hope I made that point. That your daddy loves you. That people around you that are truly your friends and family love you. And you don't have to be anything more than who you are. So I'm going to wrap this up in saying, find your home. Find your spiritual home in your heart. Follow your passions and live. And live. My spiritual home is in Christ, and, take what you want out of that. It's who I am and it's what I am, and that is where I find my home. Well, until next time, you guys, I love you, and I really want to help you and be a part of this journey with you and you with me. And hit my website up. It'll be done in a few weeks, and you can comment there, talk to me, and you can even go to my podcast from there. Until next time, see you later.